All of the young people that I know, in fact, not even young people, people under the age of, I'd say, 45, can agree that there is some sort of a cost of living inflation. Some people in the comments section tell me that it's manageable. Some people tell me that it's not even true. I don't care. I live a real life. I go to the shops to see how much things have gone up by. I pay for bills. I pay for other costs that come up. The price of everything has risen. That's undeniable. And a lot of people of my generation who are at the very lowest footing, right? If you're middle-aged, at least you may have a job or a decent job. Yes, your cost of living is probably rising, but, it's just an example. If you're at the very lowest foot, where you don't even have a place of your own or a career yet, that's when you feel the most trapped. So here's a little bit of, perhaps advice actually, for people to lower their cost of living, like straight away. To actually make the cost of living crisis not a thing for them. Because here's the trouble. A lot of people have a cost of living crisis, I agree, but their expenses could be managed a bit better, and also they could begin to make money online. So here's the thing. Number one, to beat the cost of living crisis, sacrifice has to be made, undeniably. There has to be a small sacrifice somewhere, and all of the things that I'm going to speak about will involve some level of sacrifice. If that's not for you, this is not your video. Go to watch something that makes you feel better about the situation. I'm giving you real actionable steps that you can take today to fix this situation, because there is undeniably a rise in prices. So I'm going to start off with what might seem like the most obvious thing, but I'm going to give you an actionable step. Making more money. Now, a lot of people understand this concept. If you make more money, your cost of living is comparatively less as a percentage of your income. And people might say that's just arrogant and ignorant advice. How do you go about making more money? Well, as someone who in the last 3 months, I'd say now, has brought my income from a point of low hundreds to around £5,000 a month, you can do it. What I did was this. I picked up a job. I was running my own online businesses, but I picked up a job. I worked all the hours that I could in that job, and I also built online businesses, a few of them. A lot of you guys may say, well, that's going to sacrifice a lot of time. Yes, it is. I've made videos on this. It has been a struggle. It's been a big struggle. But you guys probably don't need to bring in £5,000 or even an extra £2,000, £3,000, £4,000 a month. You guys might need to only bring in a couple of extra £100 to feel more comfortable. Maybe an extra £1,000. Just try and look to build an online business. A lot of you guys are working hard in the traditional system. It's not working out for you to this point. You need something online as well. Not necessarily instead. We can work at that stage when you're starting to get up to the revenues and profits that I am. Now I'm starting to ask whether it's instead versus as well. A lot of you guys are not at that point. You need to get some money coming in online. How you do it, I don't know. But there's an actionable step here, because a lot of people say this as a philosophy whilst not saying anything realistic. Look, once you finish watching this video, at income streams that you can build. And try any of them. People may say it's high risk. Look at things with low barrier to entry, free to start, maybe drop shipping, maybe reselling. That's what I've done. Maybe teaching people stuff. That can be free. You don't necessarily need subscriptions and resources. Stuff that you can do from home. Stuff that is not necessarily time bound. If you can throw together something that people can, like this channel, watch whilst I sleep, I can make money whilst I sleep. People can buy my eBay items whilst I'm in bed, right? I don't need to be at the office or the desk. I still need to do work on all of these businesses, but it's a lot less. So my income can grow comparatively to the level of work that I put in. So that's a big thing. We get an extra source of income. And I know that might sound like the easiest and most obvious thing, but it is harder than a lot of people think. The actionable step is to actually get something moving on this process and actually do it. Start researching, tick off boxes, try everything you can. Don't invest any money, do it for free. So, that's step one. But here comes a lot of the more subtle steps, or a lot of the more hurtful steps, because here's the thing, if you maximize your income, you can keep living the same. Keep driving the car, keep living in your place. That's what can happen when you maximize your income. If you can't do that, or you're not willing to do that, you're going to need to make other sacrifices. And this is where I recommend other things like looking at your expenses. A lot of you guys may look on paper and see how much money you're expending on useless things. And here's the thing. Netflix probably isn't making you rich. That's just one example. So do you need to spend £20 or however much I don't have Netflix, so I don't know. Can you get a cheaper phone bill? Can you get cheaper contracts in this department? What costs can you cut in terms of bills or subscriptions? Because a lot of you guys have a gym subscription and you go once a month. Just buy the day pass at that point, right? Just buy the day pass, it's cheaper. Or just don't go. And I know some people may say, always go to the gym. I think you should always go to the gym. I try go two times a week minimum. But if you're not going, just be honest. Don't have the subscription to feel better about yourself going once. Just don't go anymore. You're not going anyway. Just cancel it. That's just one example. They are the small costs that add up quickly. Going out for drinks, right? On Friday, Saturday night. Expensive. Seriously. Maybe make it a once a month thing. Now, by the way, I do not believe that you should cut out all of these pleasures. Because I've done it before, right? And at the age of 21, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right, I came to the conclusion that it's not worth completely sacrificing all of the joys of life. I tried it and I couldn't do it. You need something that keeps you motivated and keeps you going. And I would recommend that everybody tries to do a little bit of that. But I would also argue at the same time, a lot of the money that a lot of people's income goes on things that they just don't need, things that they may want or things that they may think that they need. Cut back on these costs. Life is probably going to become a little bit less enjoyable for it, I won't lie. But at the same time, you need the money. So that's one thing. A big thing that a lot of people can do, especially people my age, is either delay moving out or just move back in with parents. Now, this is probably one of the biggest hits to the ego. Let's not lie. It's a big hit to the ego. If you're living by yourself and you have to move back in with family, it can feel like you're a failure. It can feel like it's just not worked out, right? It can feel not great. But at the same time, think realistically. Now, my family is not rich, so I do need to contribute rent. This is what I've done, because it makes more financial sense. I do need to contribute rent, a decent portion as well. But a lot of you guys are from middle-class families, or decent enough off families where your families own the homes, so rents for your parents are nothing, so you can probably live there for free. If you're useful, right, wash the dishes, do stuff around the house. Just make yourself valuable to your parents, or potentially other family members, or potentially friends or roommates. Move in somewhere cheaper, and especially if it's with parents that you can get along with, right? If you can't get along with your parents, it's not viable. Just move in with roommates. I know of people, and I know that they're going to be watching this and know who I'm talking about. I know of people who moved in with their parents and it's just not working out for their mental health. That they need to get their own place, but make it a flat share, right? Save half the money or double the money or whatever. You get the point. So yeah, just cut those costs. A lot of you guys' parents will host you for free. Mine won't, to be honest. They can't afford it, so I'm not judging, right? But yeah, a lot of you guys' parents will host you for free. You can save what? In my city, it's at least £700 for an apartment rental. Obviously, a lot more for a house. And yeah, this may not be an option if you're not single. It may not be an option if you have kids. It probably won't be, actually. But a lot of you guys watching this probably won't. Move in with someone if you can. You can cut your costs in half. Get someone to rent with you, co-rent. Obviously do it in a legal way, whatever. But that's your costs potentially cut by 50%. If you cut it with you, if you're in with your parents, it could be even less than 50% of what you're paying now. You guys all know this to be the case. So these are just certain examples of that's a massive one, right? Because rent is a big thing. That's £700. You know, even if your parents have paid off the mortgage, do a little nice deed. Pay them 100, 200 a month. That's money for them. It's enriching your family rather than enriching some landlord. And also, your parents will likely thank you for it. Yes, they may not need the money, but who doesn't want an extra bit of money, right? So I'd say that. A huge mistake that a lot of young people make is thinking that they are investing, and it's so stupid to hear, in cars. First things first, a lot of you guys don't need a car. I don't need a car. I know what you're thinking, why you sat in a car, because like I say, I've built an income, and also I'm a huge car fan, right? I'm a huge car fan. I love cars. But this car, whilst it is one of my favourite cars of the last 30 years, is 30 years old. It's cheap. It's generally, fingers crossed, reliable. And even when it's not reliable, the car was like £2,000. Actually, it was £1,600 cash up front, insurance, taxes, whatever. And then obviously repair costs when I bought it because it needed a little bit of work doing. Let's say £400, £500. So let's say it was £2,100. We'll say it was £2,500. Cheap car or no car. Don't buy an Audi. In fact, no, do buy an Audi. This car is based off an Audi, but an old Audi. The old Audis that were built very simply and very reliably. Everything in this car is well made. Buy an old, either bank. You don't need to buy a nice Audi, right? Don't buy a big massive Audi that does 8 miles to the gallon. Buy one of those. It depends what country you live in, right? But if you live in the UK, you know them little Toyota Yaris things that you can buy for like 500 quid and they always work. Just get one of them. Cheapest cars that you can get, and or no car. If you live out like where I am now, you guys need a car. I'm not going to lie, I'm a city boy myself. I don't need a car. I'm a car fan. I made the sacrifice and I knew the cost that I was getting into. But then again, the car that I bought is relatively easy to maintain and cheap even when it goes wrong. Cheap being a relative term. But like I say, some of these new cars I've seen breakdown costs upwards of £6,000-7,000. I can get a full engine rebuild, new engine in this thing, brand new engine for less than £2,000, probably less than one. So that's the kind of car that you guys need to be driving, if you're even driving at all. Now also, a lot of the things that a lot of people have considered is moving abroad or are moving abroad. Now this could be a great way to cut your income, to cut your expenses. But like I say, income, it was kind of a Freudian slip there because it was my next point. Income is what a lot of you guys fail to focus on. 10 grand savings in Thailand or Philippines or whatever is going to be finite. You do not want money that is finite unless it is in the high hundreds of thousands, if not millions. Finite money is a bad idea. What a lot of you guys I recommend would need, and this is what I am doing myself, is to sacrifice a lot of stuff. Now I'm going off statistics here. This is possibly not the case for you. It's definitely not the case for me. I have all of the things that we're going to speak about, and I'm not saying anyone who doesn't is doing bad. I'm just explaining a fact of life. Statistically, if you're a young man like myself, you do not have many friends. You probably do not have a girlfriend. You probably don't get much attention from girls. You probably don't have a high-paying career. You probably aren't able to rent a nice place that you want to live in anyway. So I'm not trying to make anyone feel bad. I'm trying to make you feel good about this, because this is all to your strength. People are going to have less of an onus on what you're expected to do. You don't have to impress anyone. You're not expected to impress anyone. And all of these things can cut. That was a lovely Mustang. Damn. Sorry. As a car fan, I really shouldn't film these videos on the road because I get very distracted. Anyway, a lot of you guys have no status and you want to keep it that way for a while. And that might sound weird and stupid. And I do recommend that everyone should try build up as many. You can go to the gym whilst you live with mum and dad. You can get a six-figure, okay, maybe not six-figure. You can get a well-paying job whilst you live with mum and dad. All whilst more savings can go into the bank for potential investments, for a mortgage. I don't know if you guys want these things or not, but to buy your car out in cash so you don't have to pay stupid interest rates. To have money when potentially the next economic crash comes and you can buy all the stocks when they're half price, for example. I'm not saying these things will or won't happen, but it's never going to be a bad thing to have more money. You can then move abroad, for example. If you have an income as well, that'd be a lot stronger, but you get the point. You can travel, you can do things. So you don't have status anyway, likely. This is just if I can speak, this is just a statistical probability. You don't have much status. Use this as your advantage, right? To be fair, the older I get, it just seems easier to make friends. To be fair, the older I get, it seems like you just get more and more attention from girls, right? And you see a trajectory of life where it's like 5 years, build up the social skills, build up the money, build up the experience. You'll have a lot more girls in your life. You'll have a lot more friends in your life. You'll have a lot more investment opportunities, experiences. If you don't have that now anyway, build cash. Take the status hit. Work jobs that are going to give you experience if you want to do that. Build businesses whilst you don't have high expenses. Take this time to sacrifice everything you can. Because you don't need it anyway. Everything that you... and this is a point, right, that I've spoken about before. Hyper-consumerism. Now, a lot of you guys are going to be maybe single parents, maybe going to be people who have bad relationships with your parents as well. So you can't move in. You can't cut your costs in this way or that way because you've got kids, you've got expenses, you need your car for work. I'm not saying this is going to work for everybody, but a lot of you guys, this is not true for. A lot of you guys are single, good relationship with family, close to family, ability to get a job. Now, we talk a lot about low wages in the UK, and that is obviously comparatively true to a lot of the world. But at the same time, let's just give an example that I gave earlier. You don't have a car, so your expenses on that are zero. and you live with your parents. Let's assume that you pay your parents £200 a month in rent because they have their own house. This is an ideal scenario, but just hear me out. So your outgoings are going to be about, they're going to be very, very low. They're going to be around about, let's say £3,000, maybe £4,000 a year total. Parents' cost covered, goods that you need to buy like clothes and transportation to and from work, and other bills for yourself like phone, gym, etc. But £4,000 a month, a year, forgive me, that's how low it was. £4,000 a year to spend and an income of 12 grand is a lot saved. 4 grand a year and an income of 20 grand is an awful lot saved. 4 grand a year and an income of 30 to 40 is ridiculous. Do that for 2 to 4 years, you guys are going to be laughing. Anyway, my point about this is this. The world has changed. It's not come out of school, get a house, this is a world of the past. Sacrifices have to be made, and the cost of living crisis is only going to get worse for those who do not have. In a market that's only going to get worse, you want to have one of two things. You want to have either a stronger stake in that market, i.e. you own property, so property prices have gone up by 20% in the last 10 years. Good. I'm locked in at 200 grand. My house is now worth 220, 240. I'm getting richer rather than getting poorer as a renter. Or, I don't want to live here anymore. It's going dark at 4:20. That is actually the time right now. If you've got 100 grand in your bank, you can move. Or you can start to invest. Or you can look into different business opportunities that will give you location flexibility. So, here's the thing. Number one, a lot of people don't want to sacrifice. And number two, the reason for that is because we live in a world, or we're following a world ideal that doesn't exist anymore, right? Most people can't get out of school, college, university, then go into a good job and get paid enough to buy a house, whatever. You are going to have to sacrifice somewhere, likely. So do you sacrifice in your status short term, or do you build your status? Or do you build your status short term and sacrifice long term? Because let me tell you something. Going off statistical probabilities of the last 100 years, property owners have looked out, right? If you bought a house in the 50s in London for a couple of grand and then obviously that market's blown up, you're rich. You're rich now. If you bought into the S&P in 70s, 80s, you're rich now. You're richer than you would have been. So these people driving around in Audis and Mercedes-Benz, and again, I've explained what car I've got. Perhaps that is a little bit hypocritical, but I'm pointing away like, I've said this before, my income streams amount to like 4 or 5 grand a month. So to drive a 90s Audi Mercedes is not a big deal. But these people who get these cars on finance, the new Audis, the new Mercedes, this car was like 2 grand. The new ones that cost like 30 grand, 50 grand. I know people who are 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, early 20s, mid 20s, who are driving around in RS3s. If you don't know what an RS3 is in the UK or a lot of Europe, I think it's actually sold in America as well. Very, very expensive, high performance sports car to be fair, but very expensive. You don't need that. Why are you buying an RS3? You're in debt for the next 10 years and something that's losing at least 60% of its value. Dumbest move ever. Dumbest move ever. I don't have that expense. Yes, I have a car. Yes, it can go wrong, but even if this car completely blows up and needs to be rebuilt, even if I have to buy the car again, that's less than 3 months payment on an RS3. I know this because I know people who've done it. As in bought one. Big house. Why? You're single, you live alone. You don't need a big house. Sacrifice now and do better in the long term. That's my humble opinion, and as the light fades, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you guys, and I'll see you soon.